Con todo derecho, un lugar sin rumores ni fantasmas. Con todo derecho, un lugar sin rumores ni fantasmas.
The judicial landscape of the nation's judiciary in the Argentine Republic is being updated. Now we're told all of you that Milei, especially in the videos, the planet the little hams, Milei manages the impunity plan of Cristina Kirchner plus 5 more partners and the world's karma with Trump, Milei, Cristina Kirchner and Clarin. Ends with the Gustavo's victory, right? Well, so you see, in every field there are a lot of actors, right? And not all the actors in this judiciary case are acting with the same intentions and the same pursuits, right? Now Gustavo tells how Gustavo Galarza, starting on February 19, 2025, denounces President Javier Milei in Comodoro PY court and does so twice. Because they set up a maneuver to avoid legal acknowledging the 30 out of 30 pages. Then Gustavo, on the other hand, stated that Gustavo on YouTube has copyright, and Gustavo on YouTube has copyright over the denunciations and all the journalistic videos he makes about the case. The case that involves the persecution to eliminate Gustavo Galarza by the United States and Argentine governments since 1997 or 2005. We know that there are files in London, and Gustavo Galarza was persecuted, as we showed you, under the legal framework they used since 1992 in Argentina, the framework of the Internal Security Law of 1992. Later, the National Intelligence Law 25520 and then the law creating the AFI 27126. Which modifies, but does not repeal, the National Intelligence Law. Okay, we're going to show you the performances of different actors and try to draw a conclusion and analyze all of that. The first note is that of Roberto Garcia in his profile of it says Cristina Kirchner, Javier Milei, are back in talks to complete the Supreme Court. Okay, let's give you a summary. The article says that Cristina Kirchner and Javier Milei secretly agreed to for the extraordinary sessions that begin on December 10, 2025, and run until December 31, 2025. The budget is discussed, because those two, Javier Milei and Cristina Kirchner, have an urgent matter. Which, those who saw war, already you know, the judges of the court. Fill the vacancies of the judges of the court. Now, everyone here in Argentina, not so much, but in the world, will be wondering, how can Cristina Kirchner, a prisoner, decide on the judges of the court? Today, I reading Le Monde of Paris. Monday, November 10th, former President Sarkozy was granted conditional release by an appeals court pending his appeal of his 5-year prison sentence for illegally financing his 2007 presidential campaign by the Libyan government. Under strict judicial supervision and under threat of returning to prison. You must comply, not to contact any of the accused in the process and also not to have contact with the Ministry of Justice or any personnel of your ministry that gives you access to confidential information. Now, how is it possible in the Republic of Argentina that Mrs. Cristina Kirchner, from prison, can decide on 2 judges of the court, 2 vacancies for the judges of the court when Cristina has the notebooks case and another successive case? The Argentine Republic can only be explained by the notes already provided by Gustavo Galarza. Milei, the planet little hams, Milei administers the impunity plan of Cristina Kirchner and 5 partners more in the karma of the world with Trump, Milei, Cristina Kirchner and Clarin ends with Gustavo's victory. Then the note says that, to propose the judges, that is, to show the card between Cristina Kirchner and Javier Milei there are 2 ambassadors. On one side there is the Deputy Minister of Justice, Sebastiana Mario, who reports to Santiago Caputo. And on the other side there is Cristina's historical operator in the judiciary and in the SI and the AFI, Martín Mina, who is also running as a Supreme Court judge and has a pending case for the murder of federal prosecutor Alberto Nisman. Milei would returns with Manuel Garcia Mancia and with Ariel Lijo. And on the other hand, it is believed that Cristina Kirchner could once again support Anabel Fernandez Sagasti. Anabel Fernandez Sagasti, be careful because there is the Anabela's case. Roberto Garcia add that if Cristina Kirchner were to discard a woman for the court, Milei would go with a girl named Maria Ibarzabal Murphy, who works in the legal and technical secretariat. Furthermore, Milei and Cristina are seeking to fill the vacancies among themselves. To propose themselves and fill the vacancies of 100 judges in the nation's judiciary and to change the prosecutor, who has to carry out the accusado T system, the Attorney General who says, the note, right. Neither of them wants Casal, they don't want him to be in charge of that system. Who are they both proposing? Propose the prosecutor Carlos Stornelli. And Gustavo says, but prosecutor Carlos Stornelli, he's the one who investigated the notebooks case, you know it. It has a connection because they both chose prosecutor Carlos Stornelli. Which one? Prosecutor Carlos Stornelli is the one who Nestor Kirchner, Cristina Kirchner's husband, put in charge of the ministry of the province of Buenos Aires when the governor was Daniel Scioli. If the Gustavo case goes to trial, because Gustavo links the Annabella case, which he tells you about, like Louis Vuitton Spring-Summer 2008. You already knew about the Annabella case with the model Annabella Bellikova with the purple lips, and peace, the peace sign on her chest. It was at the same time that Gustavo went to visit his grandmother at Annabella's house. Well, why did Nestor appoint Carlos Stornelli? Because Stornelli has experience, he played a minor court, and Carlos Stornelli, but why is he there? Because, as Gustavo says, it's the U.S. government's plan to eliminate Gustavo, which then continued with the arrival of Ambassador Vilma Socorro Martinez in September 2009, at the same time that Gustavo moved in with his partner Lorena, with whom she has sons Alexis and Melody. The prosecutor from Carlos Stornelli has experience in the courts. His resume says he's in juvenile court. And like the federal prosecutor, he has experience and constant contact with the Argentine Federal Police PFA, who are auxiliaries of the judicial branch, especially in the federal courts of Comodoro PY, and with intelligence service. That's why he's there. As a journalist said, partners seek to watch each other's backs. That's why Stornelli is there. As Gustavo told you, and Morales Solá also repeats it. Morales Solá told federal judge Ariel Lijo that Judge Lorenzetti proposed him. Why? President Milei, as Gustavo says, and with journalistic data. Milei always tried to protect Cristina's relationship. You saw that Judge Lorenzetti voted against Cristina halfway through the year. It's not that Lorenzetti is Cristina Kirchner's puppet. Judge Lorenzetti is easily manipulated. He's already been manipulated, or if the manipulation involves secrets about Lorenzetti, because the intel also dedicates it to blackmailing actors. The United States government, as Gustavo Galarza says, seeks to free Cristina, as Judge Servini Cubria recounts, seeks to free Cristina, but only if Gustavo is part of her release. Now they will never be able to make progress against Gustavo Galarza, no matter how much harassment, extortion, and mistreatment they carry out against witnesses at his home or elsewhere, or the essential outings that Gustavo Galarza makes to the street for essential things. That would be a way to justify why the notebooks trial is so slow, as he complains. Morales Solá does the comparison, says that the first investigation was carried out by journalist Diego Cabot with the notebooks to verify the traceability of the payments, with the receipts of the bribes between businessmen and officials of the Kirchner administration. Then the files passed to prosecutor Carlos Stornelli and Judge Bonadio, who in a year of exhaustive work, took statements from the accused. They obtained the statements of the cooperating witnesses and took it to oral trial. Hernan Capillo complained, like all the judicial power of the nation, complains when the Supreme Court complains, the Council of the Magistracy and the Criminal Cassation Chamber complains about the format of the trial. Morales Solá says that it was interrupted with the establishment of the trial, which is once a week via Zoom, and for 4 hours, and that the format will only change twice a week starting after the January recess, starting in March. With this format, the trial will end in 5 to 10 years. For the plans of President Milei and Cristina Kirchner and the United States government, it's great. Claps. Of course, Gustavo tells you the ending. The United States government dreams that Cristina Kirchner and Milei dreams that Cristina Kirchner will be the real narrator of the Gustavo case, defaming Gustavo Galarza about all the true cases that Gustavo Galarza recounts, refuting all the truth that Gustavo tells. And the U.S. government dreams that Gustavo dies locked up and that Cristina Kirchner defames Gustavo and covers up all her partners pre-cited Milei, former presidents Macri, Alberto Fernandez and herself, Daniel Scioli, all the governors, all the Peronism of 1997. Of course, and the entire federal police force since 1997 and Buenos Aires province police since 1997. With all the officials that Gustavo shows you, the legal framework, all the officials who acted, both federal, national, and provincial in the province of Buenos Aires, plus the Clarin holding. As Gustavo completed, including Clarin's actions at the University of Moron. Gustavo shows you the planet of little hams, how the United States government is very interested in preserving the shares of the company Elucid Argentina when Gustavo Galarza worked, which was an immediate subsidiary of Alcoa International, where you saw how the Minister of Finance Paul O'Neill came You see that the Secretary of the Treasury Paul O'Neill came with De La Rua and went to Ushuaia, and you saw the Secretary of State Blinken who came with Javier Milei, and you saw the United States Secretary of the Treasury, Scott Bessent, on April 14, 2025. You saw different officials who entered from the United States government to Argentina, in a way, obviously has to save the Clarin holding. Well, Argentina is the matrix of the same established global system that the United States government seeks to preserve. Foreign companies, brands, celebrities, artists. It's the same matrix as abroad. Google and YouTube is the same matrix. Argentina is the pilot system of the American foreign partner system. The United States government is interested in the other, not the Argentine. But for the Argentine government, this is the solution to his problem with Gustavo. Why does President Javier Milei insist on proposing Ariel Lijo as a judge of the Supreme Court? Because Ariel Lijo is proposed by Judge Lorenzetti, who is not authorized for the judges of the Supreme Court to propose someone by the maximum judgeship. President Javier Milei seek to preserve the mafia. The mafia, of course, he wants put prosecutor Carlos Stornelli in charge, just as President Milei seeks to preserve the mafia against Gustavo case. Gustavo Galarza has 11 federal courts and complaints against Argentine states and partners since 2013. Milei seeks to protect lower court judges and prosecutors from Comodoro PY. And on the other hand, Judge Lorenzetti, Judge Servini de Cubria, and Judge Ariel Lijo are three who, in addition to Gustavo's case against Cristina Kirchner and Gustavo's hospitalization in 2015, are three who sustained and removed important cases from the Kirchnerist government. Let's recount the all cases. The financing of Cristina Kirchner's 2007 campaign, who acted? Judges Ariel Lijo and Servini of Cubria acted. In the ephedrine case, who acted? Judges Lijo and Servini de Cubria. And in the case of the murder of General Rodriguez, who acted? Judge Servini de Cubria. Well, then there's the cause of the emptying of YPF. Who acted? Judge Ariel Lijo. Well, all cases that the Kirchnerist government managed to not bring to trial. They were with Judge Lorenzetti as president of the Supreme Court. That idea, you see, the idea that there are many actors involved and they all have different dynamics. That's the dynamic. On one side, of President Milei, Cristina Kirchner with her trio or quartet judges, Ariel Lijo, Servini de Cubria and prosecutor Carlos Stornelli. You see, well, the idea that the trial is being delayed indefinitely is temporary. Why? Because, on the one hand, the president of the court warned the Supreme Court and the Council of the Magistracy 2 months ago that he doesn't have the physical space. According to the 3 reports I saw, they doesn't have the physical space to hold the trial in person, orally and in person. The extended trial format, once a week and regularly without the physical presence of those involved, is not the liking of the Supreme Court of the nation, the Council of the Magistracy, and the Criminal Cassation Chamber. On the other hand, the defense attorneys complained last August about affecting the rights of their clients in the Criminal Cassation Chamber, and Judges Barro Edavena and Petroni gave their opinion that this modality would affect the right to defense. Both the courthouse and the Council of Magistrates would like to see trials every day. The Council of Magistrates warned the Federal Oral Court TOF number 7 that the AMIA courtroom will be available from November 10th to 15th. 2025 AMIA trial was held there in 2013, and it can accommodate 200 people. It also has the capacity to record and broadcast on television and reproduce all documentary formats during the trial, and they are delaying it for that reason, to give time to the new majority on the court, addicted to them. They will throw that case away indefinitely so that OT expires due to the statute of limitations. Congress does not have a law stipulation that corruption cases never expire. The two of them manage the Congress, Milei and Cristina. The Morales-Solá note talks about how the new Interior Minister Diego Santilli would dedicate himself to talking with the Peronists so as not to resort to Cristina Kirchner for the vacancies of the Supreme Court and the judiciary judges. But that's not very credible. Martín Mina to blackmail the political system of the courtiers from within. Anabel Fernandez Sagasti, her appointed would be so that her name resonates with every piece of news about the Supreme Court in the media. Ariel Lijo is to support Judge Lorenzetti as the mafia of Milei's idea in Comodoro PY. Javier Milei is the son that Cristina Kirchner didn't have. Everything that Cristina wants, a son Milei has. The game of President Milei and Cristina Kirchner is there in plain sight. Now we'll see what they does. Yes, the quartet Lorenzetti, Lijo, Servini de Cubria and Stornelli perpetuate themselves, but that doesn't affect Gustavo Galarza.